the control of critical functions.
Okay. There we go. I can now see myself. We are live, and it is Wild and Weird Radio live. I'm not really sure what's going on tonight. We have some wonderful technical things we're going to be playing with tonight. We're going to try for the very first time ever to get Joe and Stan and all of us to be able to hear each other on one of these special episodes with Stan Gordon. Who is joining us. And man, this is a historic event, just to let you all know.
It really is. It really is. Like, you guys,
major news.
You know, obviously the 60th anniversary is coming up on the 9th. That is literally the tip of the iceberg. You've seen Stan's article that has been released. That is, again, the next few feet down from the tip. There is so much more. Tonight's episode is going to be historic. Literally.
It is. Stan, can you let me see if you can hear. Can you hear us?
I'm hearing you now, Ron.
Okay.
I lost you for a second.
Okay. As long as we got levels, we're good. Everybody, please let us know if you can hear us. Okay. We want to make sure that this goes out to everyone. Literally, like I said, we've got some serious news on this front that just broke today. And Stan's here to talk a little bit about that. We're going to be talking about other high strangeness events, because man, the world of high strangeness is getting crazier, and people are going to have to start accepting this stuff. And some
might say that reality is getting stranger.
Some could say that, Joe. Some could definitely say that, couldn't they? Let's just say everything happens like in these sequences, you know, these weird coincidences, right? Well, the biggest coincidence
here's the first element of high strangeness for tonight, guys. I just want you guys to bear witness. Stan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We have liftoff.
Yes, that is a first, and we'll definitely take it. There may be a little echo, guys. If there is, please bear with that, because you know, frankly, this conversation is kind of like you know, kind of important. So we're gonna deal with that just like we do with, you know, the guys in orbit and whatnot, right? So anyway, here's the deal. Today, literally, I told you when we started going with this is going to be a historic event. Now, we didn't know anything about what happened today. Just to bring you up to speed here, y'all need to start sharing this out. Let's get this thing shared out to as many people as possible, because this is a big deal. Big deal.
And guys, thank you to all the super chatters who are popping in there and making donations already. We've got LW Marshall, Just a Old Hippie, Gary Foote, and LR Miller. Thank you guys, each and every one of you. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
we'll get your blessings out here in a bit.
I want to address that real quick, because when I was trying to get everything set up, I accidentally hit like a different button. So it doesn't see you unless you do over $5. We don't do that though. You can set it to whatever goal you want, and I hit the wrong button. It should be any. So we're counting any. The machine itself may not count it, but we will count it. And that's all that matters.
Because we will see any in our chat run. We will see it. Yes, but YouTube might not catch it, which is not a problem, because our eyes are what matter.
Yeah, don't pay attention to any of that stuff. Anyway, here's the deal. I'm going to play it. I'm just going to play it. We had, you know, the event just took place. There's a news clip. I don't know. Probably no one here's seen it yet. And
there might be one person in the audience that's seen it.
Maybe. That's about it. And Stan sent this over literally like 2 hours ago. Had no idea anything like this was going to happen. So we've got a really little snippet of this clip, and I suggest you guys pay attention to what's going on in Kecksburg, because there's going to be the major stuff. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. Joe, take us to presentation mode. I'm going to go ahead and play this little clip.
You got it.
Let's see, video file. And I believe it's this one. Yep, it's this one.
We made our way to the University of Pittsburgh library system, and this is where WTAE keeps a lot of its old footage, that old archive film footage. And we were looking for something that happened in December 1965 in Kecksburg, and we found the right dates. So this is our reels. These reels have not been seen since this date, 1965, and we're about to put it in the machine and see if anything from Kecksburg shows up from that day. So this is the crowd in Kecksburg that night, trying to get down to the object that landed. We've interviewed a lot of people on the scene that night, and this is exactly what they described. Being there at the scene, trying to get down, and they described police keeping them back, as well as a man in a suit. So there we go. The state police would not let them go any.
Now that's what I want you to stop on right there, just for a second. That still alone right there is significant. That is a man in a black suit, is it not, Joe? Or a dark suit? Uh-oh, I lost Joe.
You have a guy in a dark gray
There
suit
you
there
go.
that you can see. It's a darker gray, but then the other one, with this being black and white film,
Yeah,
that could be either a dark navy or it could be black.
correct. So we don't know. Right now it looks like it is, but either way, it matches some of the descriptions, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a little bit, you guys. I think I do have the full clip is in the comments, or in the description. You can go check that out, and we'll have some more stuff put up after the show as far as it goes with that as well. So that's a way to say, let's welcome the guy who knows more about this incident and a few other things than most people. Stan, are you there?
I am here, Ron. Thanks for having me back on the program.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. It's one of our,
This is a highlight for us every year.
absolutely. So Stan, that footage dropped today, as you showed me, and that's significant, my friend. That is very significant, because it seems to really validate a lot of those eyewitness accounts over the year. Something actually did happen there, and without going into the whole story of it, we know it is the 60th anniversary coming up, but it's back in the news. That's what I'm getting at. And with all the recent revelations of disclosure and, all this stuff that's been pushed forward, this is pretty big news, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's very interesting. For years and years, we've been trying to find the archival footage from different TV stations that were there on the scene that night. And got to remember that back in those days, they were shooting film. There was no video. And I knew that these reports have been on the news the next day. And for years and years, have been searches to try to find some archival footage. And now, finally, Michelle Wright, who's the WTA TV Emmy Award-winning morning news anchor on that TV channel, she decided to do some research investigation on the Kecksburg case with the upcoming 60th anniversary. And she began to do some serious research, and she decided to try to find any archival footage. And then today we learned that apparently there were 2 reels of historical footage that were uncovered. And so it's interesting, at least to the witnesses, the hundreds of people I tracked down over the years were involved in the case. Now, they weren't all witnesses. These are people who were involved in different aspects of it. But there were apparently hundreds of people that descend on that little community that evening as words being broadcast over Pittsburgh area radio and TV that a UFO, some kind of an object that fall from the sky into the wooded area outside of Kecksburg. And all these people were finding a way into that small farming area to try to get a look at the thing down in the woods. And so at least historically it verifies there were state police there. Apparently there was a fellow that looks like maybe a suit next to the state trooper with a group of people. And again, we don't even know exactly what area that was taken in outside of Kecksburg, because there are lots of people around in different areas. And I got a pretty good idea where they probably were, but there was a huge number of people there. But anyhow, this gives a lot of confirmation, at least to the witnesses who stuck by their story. Many never went public for various reasons, but others have. And these people, many of them went to their grave not knowing the truth about what happened that night. This just helps to confirm a lot of the accounts of what happened.
Oh, it absolutely does. And I sent it over to Joe immediately after you sent it. And I think he had the same reaction that I did. It's impressive.
Yeah, this is significant. This is a very significant find, and I'm so happy that this is coming out now, especially the day and age that we're in currently. It's just going to be awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that like I said, it pushes the ball forward as far as it goes with this stuff, because confirmation is what it's all about. And that, whether that be personal confirmation or massive confirmation of some sort of cover up. And I was up there just recently for this past July for the event, right? And got to meet so many people who were just talking about this stuff, and one thing you can come to the conclusion of when you talk to those people is that they are sincere. They are telling you what they saw or what their mom, dad, whoever saw, and they're not lying. They have nothing. They don't know you. Why would they tell you these stories? And Stan has had the ability to talk to so many of them over the years.
So Octopus says, one of our friends here, Octopus, he says that all it took was one interested employee to find this footage.
Yeah, well, it's out there now, and hopefully there's more to come. We know it's a real thing. We know that Blue Book did investigate it, but they don't have any records of it. Isn't that right, Stan?
What you're fade on the end, something about records. Can you say that again, please?
Yeah. The whole Blue Book thing. We know that Blue Book was there. They did do a alleged investigation there, right? But it's there's no record of that anymore, right? Didn't they lose it, or it's missing?
No, the Blue Book report does exist. That's the only official document that does exist. Interestingly, when they talk about the case in the Blue Book file, they call it Acme, PA, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because I found that years ago that evening, as this was occurring, and you had so many people there, and then the thing was so amazing that night is that as this is being broadcast on the news, again, hundreds of people descend on that farming community to see what's going on. Then you have reporters from all the major radio, TV, and newspapers all around Pittsburgh who come out themselves to verify the story. I interviewed many of those reporters. Some of them either saw military equipment or military personnel. Some interacted with some of the authorities on the scene. And but anyhow, I found out that evening there was a family involved and didn't live that far from the impact site. And anyhow, they were interviewed by an Air Force officer that evening. They lived within walking distance of where the object fell, but they had an Acme mailing address. So I believe that's the reason why they talk about Acme in the Project Blue Book report.
That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. Well, about, I don't know, a few weeks ago, you released an amazing amount of information about Kecksburg that most people hadn't seen. It didn't surprise me, of course, but I think that it kind of plays again into this confirmation thing, right? Because we started to have these conversations now about not only UFOs, but the possibility of what's behind those UFOs. And again, we don't know what Kecksburg was, so let's just flat out say that for everybody here. It was something, and I think that this kind of proves that it was something. But there's some weird stories about that as far as it goes. If you'd like to share one of those, you can. If not, we can tell them to, go pick up your next book when it comes out.
Oh, don't expect that anytime soon. I'm so busy just trying to keep up with current reports and doing other things that that's a long, involved process. But you never know what the future might bring.
Exactly.
But anyhow, tracking down all these people over the years, I started hearing about this case. I was 16 years old when it happened. I was already interested in UFOs. I have personally never seen a UFO or a Bigfoot. After interviewing thousands of witnesses and seeing a lot of evidence, that's another whole story we'll talk about later on. But I was 16, already interested in the topic. And how I got involved in this story was I was tuned in to KDK Radio in Pittsburgh that evening. They had a talk show called Contact. The host of the show was the late Mike Levine. And the reason I was tuned in is because he had a well-known journalist on, Frank Edwards, and I'm sure you recognize the name. And I wanted to hear what he was going to talk about because he wrote books on strange occurrences. Well, the show comes on, and almost immediately, almost the entire program is focusing on this breaking news story of this brilliant fireball. This fire object was seen from Ontario, Canada, over Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And apparently, whatever the object was that's found near Kecksburg, it came over the greater Pittsburgh area about 4:47 p.m. It's just getting dark. So they're reading newswire stories, they're interviewing witnesses, reporters calling in. It was really, really fascinating. As the evening goes on, reports are coming in now that whatever the object was that came over Pittsburgh apparently fell into a wooded ravine outside of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. And then it got much more fascinating because reports are coming in that the military was now arriving in the Kecksburg area to search for an unidentified flying object. So it was an amazing, amazing night. And I started documenting that information as it's breaking on the news. There was very little information with names of witnesses at the time in the news. It made huge news, I mean, locally, nationally, internationally. And anyhow, it was very hard to track people down. So it took me many, many months and years to track people down. Once in a while, a neighbor or a friend or relative, somebody inside would call me and give me a name. Once in a while, a witness would actually get a hold of me. I would get anonymous tips. And it was just amazing how all these pieces of the puzzle began years and years and years apart, began to all fit together. And there were multitudes of theories from the time it happened. The first one I heard was from a family who was interviewed by an Air Force officer at the time, and he told them it was a Gemini capsule had been expelled in the area. And of course, we know that wasn't the case. And as time went on, there have been multitudes of theories. You know, over the years, I did a lot of investigation research on this. I interviewed and I met people who worked in the space program in the 1960s, people who designed some of the different types of craft that we were using, and found that very, very fascinating over the years. And I met a lot of amazing, interesting people. And some of them were well-known names in the field I got to be very close with. One was Len Stringfield, who was known as the father of UFO crash recoveries. So Len and I believe our paths crossed probably 1974, 75, and then we kept in touch with each other and were very close until unfortunately he passed away. And we talked a lot about these cases. I mean, he had a lot of amazing contacts. He knew a lot about UFO crash recoveries. He talked to people who'd seen bodies, and it was very, very fascinating. But getting back to the theories, there have been so many theories. You know, we've looked into a lot of the space programs, what the Soviets had, what the United States had. The theories, one person told me that he was certain it was a projectile fired from a giant railroad gun from Canada. You hear all kind of things from the Glock, the Nazi Bell. Yep. And of course, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. But I have never, and I've talked to many people who looked into these things, I've never seen any evidence it became a reality. Sure, they were fooling around and experimenting with things, but I've never seen any definitive evidence it became a reality. You know, there was a lot of talk it was an anti-gravity device or time machine. And there have been many, many other theories proposed even in more recent years. I can just tell you with the information I uncovered, and even though a lot of information has been put out over the years, and I've been putting out gradually more and more in the last few years, including a lot new little details in this report, which is on my website for people to read, that none of them seem to fit with the evidence at hand. And nobody who's ever provided these theories has provided any definitive proof that what their findings were is what fell at Kecksburg. And the story goes on and on and on. So, from the time I got involved in this, from what I knew, first of all, this object, there was a lot we did not know at that time in 1965. We did know, for example, that as that object came in over Pittsburgh, it moved out into Westmoreland County. It moved over to the city of Greensburg, where I live, and no, I did not see it. But it moved out towards Route 30 East and made a turn to the south. And it's seen by people all along those rural communities. It goes out to the mountain of Laurelville. And as Bill Bullybush from Mammoth, I was right over the hill from Kecksburg, he was under the dash of his vehicle tuning up a CB radio when he happened to look up, and he sees this fiery object moving out towards the mountains of Laurelville. So he gets out of the car and runs to the road, and he watches this thing. He says it seemed like it hesitated over the mountain, began to track back outside of Kecksburg. It made it. We now know from other witnesses it made another turn down and dropped down into the woods. And later, I interviewed people who saw this thing come down very low, right over their heads, right before it fell. And they said this thing was moving like a small aircraft on approach to an airport. And those who saw it go down said it came down very slow, almost like it made a controlled landing. But there were no parachutes seen before or after the incident in that area. And what we also did know at the time was that some of the locals who saw this thing coming down, they thought it may have been an aircraft that was in trouble or on fire. So they immediately went down into the woods, which we didn't know at the time. And that's when they came across that large, metallic, acorn-shaped object semi-buried in the ground. So this thing is kind of a North gold bronze color, and it's about approximately 10 to 12 feet in length, about 8 to 10 feet in diameter. It's large enough for a man to stand inside of. But it's one solid piece of metal. There's no weld mark, no seams, just one solid, smooth surface. And when you look at the great model that you fellows produced, which I'm sure maybe you'll be able to show it, and was very nice that you sent me that today to use at the special event next Tuesday night to show everybody. That is the best way. It's on my website too. You can see pictures of them. That's the best way for people to understand what it looked like. I mean, if you looked at what we built in the 60s, and even now, back in the 60s, it was evident it was man-made. There were screws and bolts and wall marks and separations in the surface. You could tell easily. And the one fella who was only a few feet away from him, he was a young teenage volunteer fireman. He was not from Kecksburg. It was another one of the mutual aid companies that came out because the reports came in from that area of a possible downed aircraft. So you had these mutual aid companies going out to search for a downed aircraft in the area. And well, let me step back a little bit because there's so much history here we could talk for days and days.
Oh, yeah.
We did not know at that time exactly where it fell. We knew there was a very large wooded area out there. But in the mid-1980s, we began, it was really in the 80s, mid-80s, that we began to get a lot of information began to come in from different sources for whatever reason. And things really intensified in our investigation. And my team was out there, and we found a definite pattern of tree damage, where trees were knocked down in the same direction, the top of trees were knocked out, and we had a really pretty good idea where we thought this thing probably came down. Problem was, we didn't have any eyewitnesses for the object on the ground at that point. But in 1987, I held a very large public display at the Westmoreland Mall in Greensburg. I mean, it was a really, really big. It took up a lot of area. There was thousands and thousands of people literally came in from all over to our displays out there. And we got a lot of good UFO information. I had very little information on Kecksburg at that time. We had a small little display, and one of my associates was there. I was out for lunch, and this family happened to walk by, and one of my associates was talking to somebody else, and they were talking about the Kecksburg case. This guy's just standing there, and he's listening in. He's, "Excuse me, are you talking about that thing happened a long time ago out there in Kecksburg?" And they said, "Yeah." And he said, "I was on the search team that found the object." Well, that was Jim Romansky. And I got to know him and his family very, very well. And I was able to confirm a lot of information he gave me. He couldn't possibly have known what he told me if he hadn't been there, believe me. And, but he was a young farmer at the time, but most of his life he later was a machinist. He worked with all kinds of metals. And he said to me from the time I found him till he passed away, he said, it looked like somebody took liquid metal and poured it into an acorn-shaped mold. One solid, smooth piece of metal. Except the raised up part in the back that he called the bumper area, he said there were these raised up markings that looked some type of odd symbols on it. Anyhow, again, we could talk for hours and hours about so many details, about so many different things. But just a part of that story. So Jim gets out there with a few other firemen from his company. And they were setting up a grid search to search a large wooded area for a possible downed aircraft. And, of course, they didn't know at the time, but some of the civilians had already been down and found the site. Well, anyhow, they put a number of these firemen in trucks, and they left them off in different areas along the base of a wooded area. They had walkie-talkies at the time. And Jim told me, he said they weren't there very long when another team said that they found a location where what they thought was an aircraft had fallen. They didn't go into great detail, apparently over the radio. So he and this few other guys get over. There's like a little embankment there, and these people are all standing on a little embankment looking at this thing a few feet away from them. And Jim gets there, think he's going to find a torn-up airplane, and what they saw was something unlike anything they'd ever seen before. But what's interesting was they weren't there very long when two men in trench coats carrying what appeared to be a yellow Geiger counter came down in the woods, looked all around, and said, this area is now under quarantine or something along that line. You got to get out of here right now. And right behind them are soldiers coming down in the woods with flashlights. And Jim said, we shined our flashlights on each other as we moved and past each other. And they sent us back into town. And I took them for a while to find a way back because they'd never been out there before. They didn't know the area. But anyhow, it's a fascinating case. And here's the interesting thing. So a year later, I get an anonymous tip that another man who lived over the hill, which was Bill Bulleybush, was probably the first person down there right after it fell. Because when he saw that thing coming, when he's under his dash, he sees that object moving out towards Laurelville. He jumps into his car and he goes to the highest point that looks over all the woods in that area because he hunted down there. And it looked like it was coming back in that way. And when he's up there, it's almost dark. He had a flashlight with him. And anyhow, he sees these odd kind of blue arcing down in the woods, like kids are playing with sparklers or something. So I thought, what the heck's that? So he found his way down because he knew the area, and he walked the whole way down, and he stood behind a particular tree. Well, anyhow, the point is this. He knew nothing about Romansky. He never knew the guy. They weren't from the same area. And I'm kind of stepping back a little because of so many details again I'm trying to remember. So anyhow, going back a little, it's a little confusing. Jim Romansky, a year before, we told him nothing about the tree damage or what we found or what we knew. He remembered certain landmarks from that night that I didn't even know until I checked on he verified. He remembered certain details about a particular tree and some details down there. He walked around that area for quite a period of time, and he said, you know what, guys, I think we're right on the spot. That is exactly the area where we thought the thing had come down. So he took us to that spot. A year later, we found out Bill Bulleybush, and he decided he would take us down. He took us from a completely different vantage point into the woods. We had to walk all through the woods down across the fields, and he took me to a particular tree. He pointed over and said, I stood behind this tree, and he pointed and said, that's where it was. It was exactly the same place that Romansky took us to the year before. And then later, young John Hayes and his family had several siblings. They were renting a farmhouse, which was pretty close to the impact site. And the kids played in the woods every day. That was their playground. They knew every inch of those woods. And young John, his brothers and sisters, they were in the house as all this was unfolding that Thursday night. They see hundreds of people up on the hill. They see military trucks coming down their road, their driveway. He sees a military flatbed tractor trailer going in empty, and later coming out with a tarp object. He said at the distance looked about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. There were men, military uniforms and suits coming in and out of his house using their phone and reversing the phone calls. And John always went on record, and he said this many times, and he said, I heard him say that NASA will be arriving soon. And he said it wasn't long after. In fact, John said, the people in the house told my parents to send the kids upstairs. Well, we were watching out the window. But he said, I kept saying I had to go to the bathroom for an excuse to go up and down and see what's going on. And he said, when we got down there, heard a knock on the door. Soon after he heard that call, and he sees men in a white coveralls like decontamination outfits, and one had a NASA patch on. And it's such an amazing, amazing story. So anyhow, as I think you asked me a question long ago, and I got sidetracked here, but wanted to give you some background information. So there have been multitudes of theories. And I said years and years ago, could this have been a very secretive, very advanced man-made space probe that has some type of reentry control capability? And I'll continue to keep an open mind. But looking at all this information, talking to many experts in the field, people who knew the space program, some of them told me, even today, we don't have the technology to do what this thing did. And it's a fascinating, fascinating case. But there were things that I was hearing going back many, many years initially that were curious to me, but I had no way to confirm these stories. And back in those days, there was no data, there was no evidence to confirm these stories. One of the stories was that, and I'm guessing this was probably late 60s, early 70s, there were rumors that there were 2 or 3 possible non-human bodies that were recovered that night around Kecksburg. But there was not enough data. But over the years, and interestingly, in the last couple of years, where I've gotten some information from various people that all confirm certain details to me. And it'll take a little while, Ron, but if you want, I'll tell you a couple of those reports.
I want to touch on particularly the thing that I found fascinating was the report of a possibility that a jet was following this thing when it came in, and then the eventual story of that arm that was seen when the hatch opened, the detail of the hatch. Well, you got, Joe?
But before we jump too deep into that, there was mentions of the military being there early. Would it be possible that those guys were just civil defense? Because they were wearing dungarees at the time, the old World War II issue dungarees.
Now, say it again.
Pull your mic
Can you
closer.
repeat that part again? You faded out on me.
So, could it have been possible the rapid response of the military was due to the civil defense? Because they would have been wearing the old dungaree issue uniforms from World War II, and they would have had the civil defense yellow Geiger counters, and they would have been able to make it on the scene very quickly prior to actual military showing up.
Okay, yep, I'm very familiar with it. In fact, I was a volunteer for the civil defense, and so were some members of my research teams who were trained by civil defense and radiological monitors during the 70s. But that's another story. But there were people out there who, they told me within a relatively short period of time, they were surprised. They were seeing a very small amount of military presence, and these were like military jeeps with military people in military uniforms. A lot of these witnesses were people who had been in the military. They knew the Air Force and Army, different types of clothing and uniforms. So I believe that's true, and I found information over the years that highly suggested that, you got to remember now, it's 1965. It's Vietnam. We had armories all over our area and over the Pittsburgh area. There were armory, there were reserve units. They were all over the place. I believe that some of the initial small appearances of military were likely from local units. But it was over a period of several hours that the main military began to show up from different roads. And I know for sure, because I have independent witnesses, saw what they said was an Army convoy coming in on the Greensburg Mount Pleasant Road. and that's where it came in. And the convoy went out with the object with tarp over it around 1 o'clock in the morning with the object. That's another story. But anyhow, no, I don't believe that they were confusing those. However, I am aware that there were some people associated with civil defense from outside the area that came there on a semi-official visit. Again, it's very, very complex. There's no doubt that there were some Army and Air Force personnel on the scene. Many people saw them, including reporters. There was those locals. Some of the locals said they either saw or interacted with NASA personnel. And then really interesting is that initially, as reports came in, one of the witnesses reported that the object that was being broadcast news that found near Kecksburg and called the local radio station had, and this went on record at the time, even in the local news. She said soon after it happened, she got a call from a person who said he was from the Department of the Navy. He told her not to disclose the exact location till they could get out there to people. Said there was a Navy interest. And the witness, the truck driver I talked to from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, who with another truck driver, probably 2 or 3 days after recovering Pennsylvania, they both worked for a large supply house in Ohio. And that supply house, they were told that a Navy officer came into that supply house and ordered a special type of glazed engineering brick be sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Again, another different story that there were 2 truck drivers involved. They were escorted in, told, do your job, don't be looking around. Now, the witness that contacted me was not there the first day. And it took quite a while till the other driver was willing to talk and confirm the story, but later he actually did. He said he got there that day with the first load of bricks. There was a military flatbed trailer with an upright object, like something like an acorn-shaped thing covered with a tarp outside of this building. The next day, the fellow contacted me. He and this other truck driver went back to the base together. They were escorted in again. Do your job, don't be looking around. But when they got there, the flatbed trailer was there. The object was gone, but the tarp was laying over the trailer part. Okay. And he kept watching. He's seen these fellows, he described to me and Len Stringfield, that these fellows were periodically changing their outer clothing. And he apparently recognized, and he said they were Navy people. He could tell by what he was seeing, what they were wearing, whatever, and he said he was certain they were Navy people. So that's very interesting, too. And, of course, we've heard for years and years the Navy's had an interest in UFOs going way, way back, maybe even before the Air Force was involved. So anyhow, and I've kind of gotten off track here, but anyhow, give me your question again, because I went off track.
You're literally still... No, you're literally still right in the same wheelhouse. But the story about in your article where the witness said that they saw a fighter jet pursuing something. Remember that one?
Yeah. Anyhow, again, there were certain details over the years that I didn't make public till sometimes many years later until I had enough independent confirmation. So a couple of those things would be one. You know, we talked about a military flatbed tractor trailer that was seen out there. But over the years, different witnesses unknown to each other confirmed to me there was not one, but there were 2 military flatbed tractor trailers on the scene that night, which is interesting, okay? Mm-hmm. But it's the same thing with, over the years, independent people from Ohio into Pennsylvania told me that they saw 1 or 2 military jets pursuing along the path of the object soon after he had passed over. That's really fascinating. Oh, yeah. And then last year, another thing happened. I get an email from a fellow, and I interviewed him the next day with a detailed interview. He was from Michigan, not locally. Well, this thing came in over Ontario, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And he said, I never heard about Kecksburg several years earlier. And he said, I didn't realize I had a part in this thing and didn't realize it was. Now, you know, lots of people call me and say, I saw the object in the sky. And I believe a lot of them definitely saw something. The point is, if you can't confirm to me something important about that day, that you can confirm it was that day, then it's questionable. But a lot of these people, again, were very, very credible. They had no reason to make these stories up. And it was fascinating. But anyhow, he was able to confirm these details to me of why he remembered that particular day. To make the story, again, very, very brief, you can go to my website and read more details about it. He was on a date with his girlfriend at one of those back 1960s drive-in restaurants outside of Pontiac, Michigan. And it was just getting dark. And suddenly this dark object with very bright, different colored flames came overhead, illuminated his inside of his car and some of the other cars close by, and that went over. But he said, what happened next frightened the heck out of him. He said, I'm an aviation buff. I know aircraft. And he said, what I saw next scared me. He said, following right along that path, just a short time after this thing had passed, he sees an F-101 Voodoo fighter jet approaching the object, and he said it fired a missile at that object. And apparently when it struck it, the whole sky lit up, everything lit up again, and the thing kept going. And that brings up a whole different aspect of the case. And I really believe this guy is telling me the truth. He said, look, I'm up in age, and he said, I know what I saw, and I wanted you to know about this so I could still tell you the story. And he was very credible on the phone, gave me lots of details. I believe he's telling me the truth.
Wow. Now, to me, immediately, that's more validation simply because we know that, it's okay to shoot down UFOs. It's something we do now, right?
Yeah, right. It's kind of public knowledge at this point.
Yeah. Now they're talking about it. So, when this happened, really, no, they weren't talking about that kind of stuff. And that's the most amazing thing to me, simply because it's all so non-linear. Like there's little bits and pieces, and you find out in the future, that's something that, well, wait a minute now, this makes sense now, but it didn't make sense yesterday because, this one little piece of information comes out. And of course, the next thing I want you to touch on, and we'll probably drift away from Kecksburg at this point because it goes into high strangeness on its own, is the same thing that everybody's talking about.
Before we switch off and go away from Kecksburg for a second.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's go over the new appearance.
Oh, you mean the modification, the hatch kind of thing? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, the new design,
why it looks like that, yeah,
put up there, and why it looks that way, things of that nature.
Well, that's part of the story, actually, right, Stan? I mean,
yeah, it is. And
yeah.
I mean, I got this years and years ago. One of my research associates back in the day for years and years was a late George Lutz, or lots I call him George Lutz. Not the one connected with the Amityville horror story. It's a different person. But George was a former Air Force pilot and officer. He spent years with me investigating UFO cases and cryptid cases and a lot of Kecksburg witnesses. And we didn't talk about it a lot publicly, but we speculated for a long time that could this thing have been some type of escape pod? Was it ours or was it from somewhere else? Just that possibility. But the hatch thing's interesting because it was something else that I didn't talk about very often, and there was not a lot of detail, but there were independent people who were close enough to see the object, and they talked that there was a protuberance sticking out from the front of the object. But here's why it's interesting, and this gets into some of the stranger stuff. So anyhow, in 2002, when the Sci-Fi Channel picked Kecksburg as a major case for them to do an investigation, they were supporting a group called the Coalition for Freedom of Information that was being directed by Leslie Kane, investigative reporter. They did a huge, major investigation on the Kecksburg case and made international news. It led to a lot of research and all kind of specialists and all kind of FOIA requests, and it was just amazing what they were able to do things and go places I didn't have the capability to do. They even located some of the Air Force officers who were on the scene that night, who were involved in the investigation. But anyhow, when the local news was breaking here about the investigation going on, there was a bunch of new names of witnesses that I was going to be able to interview. There was one particular name that I saw in there, and the reason it got me interested was I remembered that name from, I think at that time it was like 12, 14 years before. It was a man that I had information on that was reportedly hiding down in the woods as the military's coming in at the crash site. And I contacted him at the time. He didn't deny, just that he didn't want to get involved. He was afraid to get involved, and that was it. But now here's his name again. So I got a hold of him right away, and I said, and I told him who it was. I recognized his name, and we decided. He said, "Well, I'll be willing to talk to you now." So anyhow, I immediately made arrangements to go out and meet with him. So it was a short time later, I go out to his home. He was an older fella, of course, a lot older than I was. And he looked a little nervous, and he said, look, I was going to call you and cancel because there's some people still close to me and said I should not even talk about it now. But anyhow, we sat down, had a nice conversation, and we became friendly, and he opened up and he started telling me about what happened. And that led to several other detailed interviews over different weeks. But anyhow, what was most important, and the short part of the story was this. He heard on the news, local news, that the object had fallen to a wooded area that he hunted in. And so he knew the area pretty well. He got there not too long after the thing apparently fell. And it was almost dark. He had a flashlight with him, but he saw this unusual arcing from the woods that other people reported seeing as well. So he started falling into the woods, and he comes across it deep in the woods, this large metallic object embedded, semi-buried in the ground. And he gave me a lot of detail, like the positioning, the way it was positioned, how it came in. And he went into great detail. And he said he wasn't there long when he had to keep moving further back into the woods from the object, because first he saw people in civilian clothes. It could have been locals, or he think maybe volunteer firemen. And then he sees the military starting to come in. He said, I was in the military. I know what military looks like. But what was really interesting was, he said, there was a man down there, and I just couldn't understand why the guy was dressed like that. Here's a man in a dark suit with a tie, with a black hat. He has a camera, and he's walking all around this thing, taking all kind of pictures of that thing. And then he says to me, he said, I couldn't see well, I was too far away, but there was a series of tracks on the ground that looked like it led away from the object into the woods. And that man was taking all kind of pictures of those tracks. And then it got more fascinating. He says, as I'm watching, this Army officer jumps on top of the object. He had a long metal rod. He says something like a policeman's billy club. And for whatever reason, he starts striking the object. And he said, moments later, he said, well, before he got that far, I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden, he's getting very emotional. I mean, I've interviewed lots and lots of witnesses, and I know when somebody's lying or telling the truth, and I can just see it in this guy's face. He was getting very emotional. His voice began to quiver, and he said, this officer jumps on top of this thing, starts hitting this thing, and moments later, there's a hatch on the front of the object, opens from right to left. And he said, I swear to God, sir, there was something inside of that thing. And he said, all I could see was this. He said, it looked something like his kids used to play with, some kind of a long elastic material. It was a long, thin arm. He can only see, I believe he said 2 fingers, I don't think 3, but 2. He said, I couldn't tell well, but there's only a few fingers. And he said, I had to keep moving back in the woods as all this was going on. He said, moments later, metal on metal hitting, the hatch is closed, and that officer is screaming, hurry up, we don't have much time. And then he went into great detail how they use this metal strapping to, they had to put all around this object, and they had to winch it over towards the edge of the field because there was too many trees there. You couldn't take the trucks right down. What a lot of people also didn't know, that I had independent confirmation, was that they had brought in a small crane to load the object onto the flatbed truck. So all these little pieces fit together. So anyhow, his story is very interesting. I believe the guy was telling me the truth. I saw the emotion in his voice and what he told me, and that fits in with the other witness that I had found in 1990 had contacted me after the Unsolved Mysteries TV show aired, who was that truck driver I mentioned from Ohio. He called me and said, I guess I'm allowed to talk to you about it now that it's on television. And he talked about, he didn't tell me this at the time I interviewed him. Years later, when his health was not good, he said, I have something else I want to tell you. He said, I saw something else in that building that I didn't tell you about before. And anyhow, he went into great detail saying, I didn't see any people going in on the building at that time. And he said, I snuck in to see what was going on. And here's this kind of an off gold bronze acorn shaped thing, seamless with these odd markings on it up. And it's on scaffolding, which is what your last project was. And there's ladders going up to it, and these fellows are apparently trying to study this thing, trying to get inside of it. But he said, I saw something else. It wasn't well lit in there, but he said, I saw what I think he said like a workbench, and there was a small body lying on the workbench with a cover over it. And he said, all I could see was the left arm hanging down. The skin looked lizard-like, kind of a greenish brown, if I recall, and I could see only 3 fingers. And he said, that's all I could see. And it went on and on and on, what he told me. And he said at some point, he started asking questions. They must have thought at first he had clearance to be there. Then they realized he wasn't. And basically, he told me he was threatened. They told him, you are never to talk about what you saw. We're going to put you in jail and throw away the keys. But in 20 years, this will all be public knowledge. And, of course, that never happened. That's the short part of the story. But there's others, and there's more information I've had now over the years that suggested that there's other witnesses who saw something else out in that site that night that correlates with their story and other people's as well.
Wow. Absolutely amazing.
This is just radical.
It really is. And, and like we said, to see it in relation to what's actually unfolding right now, man, it's, again, more confirmation as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what it was anymore anybody else does, but we can at least start having a conversation now.
Well, reason, all this was coincidence. You had the anniversary come up. You got the release of these films. You've got the congressional hearing. You've got the whistleblowers talking about the secret UFO recovery operation, been around for years, that we've recovered non-human bodies as well as craft. And if I didn't truly feel these people were telling me the truth, I wouldn't be talking about it now. But there's other information I have, and I truly believe something happened out there. I'll keep an open mind, but I'm telling you, these witnesses had nothing to gain. Some of these people, one fellow I interviewed last year, and I knew people were very close to this guy for years and years, and he refused to talk to me or tell anybody about what he experienced that day with being involved in seeing something along this line, something that shouldn't have been there in that area that day. And finally, last year, he broke down and met me for a short time. And there's others I know that know people who still today won't talk about some of the things they saw. It is such a fascinating case. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not out to prove this thing was extraterrestrial or whatever it is, because regardless, it's an interesting case, just the way the government responded to these things. Do I believe that there was a secret UFO recovery program operational in the 60s or 65? I truly believe it. For as quick as they got that equipment there, the equipment, the personnel, the high level of some of the officers seen on the scene, I truly believe they already had a program already in force.
So in regard to these programs, we are looking at the potential that right now, with what we have going on in the federal government and with what we have happening at large, it kind of seems like right now, with this anniversary happening and this new information getting ready to come out on Tuesday, that there could be a straw that might break the camel's back, because there's been some pressure towards the federal government with these new movies that have come out to make a move on something. And what do you think the possibility is currently that this new revelations about Kecksburg could take more ground for the case for disclosure?
Well, I think it's a part of the possibility. there apparently are other really good crash. I know Len knew of other really good cases, and there's other researchers we've heard for years about other possible crash cases around the country and around the world. So, I mean, Roswell and Kecksburg are very well known, but there's others. And I think it's at least opening the door. I think with some of the whistleblowers have talked about that they have a list of some of the potential recovery cases. At this point, I would not be surprised if Kecksburg is on that list. And we'll find out someday. If it is, it is, and isn't, it isn't. But there's a lot more of the story, and hopefully it'll open up. Do I believe there's going to be any major disclosure anytime soon? I am skeptical about it. I've heard this many times over the years. However, the situation now is much more different than any time in history. Now you've got major people, congressmen. You have Marco Rubio, who I believe is a very important person. I think he knows a lot more about it. And now as Secretary of State, and we know this, and we know the State Department was among other agencies who were involved in looking at the UFOs years and years ago. And so anyhow, I'm hopeful that we'll get more information at some point. We'll just have to wait and see.
Oh yeah, absolutely great. LR, great to see you, and have fun there doing that thing.
One thing I want to mention, Ron, I've been doing this for a long, long time. This is 66 years of research. I've worked on thousands of amazing cases over the years. While we can explain a lot of things, there's a lot of amazing cases. There's no possible way you can find a good explanation. But what I also said a long time ago was the evidence is more and more that we're dealing with more than one origin to the unknown category of the UFO mystery.
Yeah.
I believe a small percentage of these things could possibly be extraterrestrial, especially with some of the really detailed low-level cases I worked on, and people I know have been involved in these things for years and years. But I'm telling you, Ron, a lot of what we're dealing with might even be stranger. A lot of what we're doing, we talked about it before, it's ongoing. A lot of what we're dealing with is so strange, so unusual. It's very hard for anybody to accept it or believe it unless you experience it yourself. I think this is one of the reasons why there's so much government secrecy, because they know what's going on as well. But they don't understand it, they're not in control of it, and they're trying to figure out themselves. And what we're dealing with has a physical and a non-physical component to it. Whether we like it or not, the orbs, some of the UFO stuff, the Bigfoot stuff, and some of the cryptid stuff are all interconnected. And believe me, from the time I was investigating Bigfoot sightings in the 1960s in Pennsylvania, I was completely convinced Bigfoot was an unknown primate. And I started this in 1959, and I was completely convinced that UFOs, the ones you couldn't explain, were extraterrestrial. Well, now we know a lot more about it, and while we know a lot more, we still have many, many unanswered questions which nobody understands. I deal with these things constantly. I mean, what's going on even in recent weeks and months is so doggone bizarre. And these are not crazy people. They come from all walks of life. It's changed many people's lives. There's patterns to it. And I'm telling you, it's very intriguing and very interesting. But this orb thing is getting very, very startling. Let's put it that way.
100%. Absolutely. No, you're right. And I think the orb thing, once people laughed at that, there's not too many laughing now. There's been a lot of.
Well, it's hard to laugh when people die from it.
No, it's true. I mean, you're right. And there's been these biological reports that have come out, that are talking about some of the danger with these things. When I always tell people not to chase the orbs, this is what I'm talking about. Low-level radiation. Who knows what's there? We don't know what's going on. We don't even know what that is. There's so many theories now that it's, like you said, there's an interdimensional aspect to this, or maybe it's a strange technology that's so advanced that that's the byproduct, and it's hard to say, but no, you're right. I think it's going to get a whole lot stranger here before long.
Well, it's been increasing dramatically in the last 2 years, and last year and this year it has been here in Pennsylvania. It has been nonstop all year. UFOs, orbs, cryptids, Bigfoot. A lot of it now is in daylight at very close range. It's just startling what's going on. And I'll give you some examples. I mean, I've got many of them I can give you. But, I first began to realize this back in 1972. And then we had that massive wave in 1973, which I have no doubt was the biggest Bigfoot UFO outbreak in history in Pennsylvania that went on. There were hundreds and hundreds of UFO sightings all year across Pennsylvania. Multitudes of newspapers were covering local stories. That's when I had my research teams. I had scientists and engineers and police officers, former military specialists, and volunteered their time to go out in the field with me to investigate these cases. And by 1973, luckily, I extended the cover of the volunteer team to cover the state of Pennsylvania. So as this was breaking out, hundreds of UFO sightings, a lot of them low-level, large solid objects below the ground, hovering over cars or incidents on the turnpike. There were landing reports. I mean, we were so busy just trying to keep up with the UFO stuff. And then in the summer of 73, we had the biggest Bigfoot outbreak ever documented anywhere. Went on for months and months. We've had Bigfoot sightings in Pennsylvania every year since 1973. And some of this stuff it was so amazing. I mean, this time we weren't looking for these things. So you got to remember, in 1973, there's no cell phones, there's no internet, so people had no way to communicate, know a lot about what other people were reporting, and we're getting reports from miles and miles away of the same kind of weird stuff going on. And so, you know, again, with all these incidents, one of the first things was these incidents are going all year round, even in the wintertime. So my teams, again, we're on the scene within minutes, hours, documenting everything. That's what I wrote about my Silent Invasion book in great detail, because we could talk for days about this. Yeah. And even in the snow, we have these huge footprints with big strides between them that go for this and then abruptly just stop. There was no way that could be fabricated. So now all over the country, you're getting these kind of reports. And then it got stranger and stranger. So we're out investigating, and there's people telling us in daylight, they're seeing the 7-8 foot tall hair-covered creature, maybe 40, 50 feet away from them, that suddenly disappears and moments later reappears a few feet away. And then in the next few weeks, we're getting the same reports from miles away in other counties. And then we begin to see this pattern. We're having a UFO sighting in a certain area. Within minutes, hours, days later, we have a Bigfoot sighting or vice versa. But it was then that we were hearing in 72 and 73 these reports of these small orbs or spears of light. And I knew then the smallest ones about the size of oversized fireflies, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter. A lot of them about the size of a baseball to a golf ball or a foot or two in diameter. And they're generally spherical, but not always. There's some other configurations being reported. So that's been going more and more over the years. And then we had that amazing case, September of 73, north of Pittsburgh. You had 2 witnesses waiting for a friend to pick them up that evening. And they see this huge 7-8 foot tall Bigfoot with white hair running across the road towards the woods, but in one of his hands is carrying a glowing small ball of light. And not long after, a little later, they see this luminous object came across the sky, projected a beam of light down in the woods where the creature ran into. Like, what in the heck's going on? Yep. But then, in the many years since then, I've had reports of these things pacing vehicles during the daylight on highways. I've had them enter people's homes and cars. And now in more recent years, these things are coming up to people within a few feet in daylight in beautiful weather. They're appearing inside more people's homes now within a few feet away from them. And yes, in some cases, we're hearing physiological effects being reported of different types. So,
and those are just the cases that are visible.
Say again?
Those are just the cases that are visible.
Yeah, because what you're picking up in different generation of night vision is something also that's going on that you can't always see these things, but there's variables in the reports.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Both of you are 100% right. There's something there. Again, there's been theories as to what it could be. We don't know what they are any more than we know what any of this honestly is, aliens, extra dimensionals, Bigfoots, whatever. We don't know what this stuff is, right?
Yeah, I mean, a long time ago, we were just on at a point where we're like, what difference does it make? We don't understand it. We need to find the answers.
Well, that's how you
came up. Lost audio.
Uh-oh. You there?
Now you're back.
I think when I move the mic is what happens. So I'm going to try to keep it
So what I said, Stan, was that back several years ago, we had to make the determination that regardless of what this phenomena is, regardless of how it is, it's happening, and we need to try to find the answers to why.
Yep. And it requires people to talk, amongst themselves, right, Joe? Like we've talked about this, Bigfoot people got to talk to the, the people who are out there having these UFO events, and it's all the same.
We started purposefully trying to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm not, when we talk about these cases with UFOs and Bigfoot and orbs, once again, I am not suggesting that these things are extraterrestrial.
Correct.
If we're dealing with something that's so far beyond our present scientific understanding, nobody understands it. Once again, there's a physical and non-physical aspect to it. These things come and go. They're here and they're gone. There's many other aspects of these things, some physical effects, psychological effects, EM effects all the time, electromagnetic effects and disturbances with these cases. It is just incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And I think you said it earlier, really, unless you've had these things happen, you're not going to even believe it unless you've had something like this happen to you, or you've been in the field and, you've experienced it, or you've actually gone out and done real research, i.e. interviewing, people and being in the field like you have for ages now. And once you're confronted with that data, I mean, Joe knows it. We know it. We've seen it. It's like, what do you do with that? Right, Joe? I mean, it's the same thing.
Once you're confronted with it, you have to figure something out. If that means you start compartmentalizing it to try to make it make sense so it doesn't melt your brain out of your ears, that's what you have to do. And that was the path that I chose.
Lost your audio, fellas. I'm sorry.
Try it again, Joe. He lost audio for a second.
Oh, I just stated that, we had to essentially reevaluate how we approach things. And we were either going to accept the fact that we were having these strange phenomena occur simultaneously and or in the same environment, whether they were related or not, they were still occurring, and we couldn't toss the baby out with the bathwater. So I had to come up with a way for me personally just to compartmentalize it all, because like you, I began my whole journey in this phenomena looking at the Bigfoot phenomena as an undiscovered primate. I still have an ounce of hope that there might be some sort of undiscovered creature, not necessarily a primate at this point, but some type of flesh and blood creature to this day. However, there is so much bizarre phenomena that surrounds it, as well as other phenomena that is occurring in the woods, that I had to come up with some system that made sense to me so I could process it all. And now I don't know what it is. I have more questions now than ever.
Exactly. We all do. We all have these things. And, the information is coming out more and more. You're hearing more discussion about this. I'm sure you're aware that the new David Paulides film, American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Monster, is just coming out. It's out now, and it's going to go into great detail about a lot of these subjects we're talking about. I think there's going to be quite a reaction to it once it gets out and people hear about it. Here's what I found. Back in the 70s, all this stuff's going on. And, of course, no internet back then in those days, as we mentioned before. So I had to communicate with people by mail from around the country and around the world. And I was in touch with many of the well-known Bigfoot researchers of the 70s. And we were discussing, talking about the things I was uncovering with this weird stuff with UFOs and Bigfoot. And quite a number of them said to me, we're getting the same kind of reports that's going on, but we're not going to get involved because we want to be laughed at by our peers. My position was, look, I don't have the answers. These are well-documented cases. Something's going on. I'm putting this out there to encourage other people to come forward. And I can tell you this, and I've spoken for many types of Bigfoot groups and organizations and festivals all over them, and I'm finding many, many researchers now in the Bigfoot field now beginning to be a lot more open-minded than they were before. Many used to laugh at these cases, but now many of them are receiving reports or they're experiencing themselves encounters with orbs and other aspects of Bigfoot that indicates we're not dealing with something that's just an unknown animal. It's something much stranger.
Oh, yeah, 100%. We can validate that as well. We saw that ourselves, and we saw it over the years, literally at OBC. We've had people who were, they'd snicker, and then we'd get the people who'd pull us off to the side and be like, I'll tell you something, but you won't believe it. And I'm like, try us. And then, you know, you would give a little confirmation as to what they were saying. I was like, man, that's totally normal. Honestly. I mean, there's so many people who have seen this. They just don't say anything. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the response you would get. You know, they've seen it. They just don't know how to rationalize it because it doesn't fit into their concept of reality. And it's changing now.
Yep, it's slowly changing. You can really see it. I mean, just from the researchers I talk to, the witnesses I talk to all the time. I've been giving lectures all year, and everywhere I've gone, people come up to me and share their Bigfoot and creature encounters, UFO encounters. How many of them reported anybody? Almost nobody.
Yeah.
We can't even imagine how much this is going on. I get reports. I do these things almost every day on current and past cases. You get reports. Many researchers I know get reports. There's no database that has access to all this information. We can't imagine how much of this is going on quite often.
Oh yeah. And you know, that's one of the more amazing things about it is they're having the conversation. We're having this conversation now. We find out that, look, you know, the government was very interested in it. That's the whole thing with, you know, NIDS, ALSAP, all of that, you know, that's what they did. They took those concepts very, very seriously. Whereas, you know, everybody else was laughing about the possibilities of these things. They're like, you know what? There's nothing too strange for us not to throw research at because we're trying to figure this out. Of course, they probably wanted to weaponize it. Let's be real. But the point is they were willing to look at it and not snicker at it. Joseph, do we have any questions out there in the audience? Folks, you can ask your questions, by the way. Stan is here, and it's rare that
Jordan
you get to
Booker. Let's see. I'm gonna have to change my audio real quick.
Okay, you go ahead and do what you need to do.
So Jordan Booker, he says that Stan Gordon is the Library of Alexandria of high strangeness data. Then we've got, let's see. We have some folks who've actually been seeing some weird stuff tonight. Jen has been seeing, she saw something flying tonight. Octopus shared an account here saying that, yeah, the orb that he saw was like right after the Pukwudgie or young Sasquatch that he had a witness account of himself. He had his own sighting. Then we've got, let's see. So Octopus shares his story here. He says, something small was watching my friend and I from behind a tree, and then it took off and flew away right in front of us. It was a small blue-white orb.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, that's the same thing we heard, of course, at Wineberry. It's the same thing we've heard, you know, multiple times this
Rick
point.
Skinner says, I found it interesting that the Kecksburg UFO looks like the Soviet Suez descent
module.
Yeah, but look at the design. Look at the weld marks, the seams on the Soviet module. It's a completely different type of thing. There's a lot of different diagrams and a lot of different designs that are somewhat similar, but this thing did things. It's making change in direction. It's making a slow descent. It's completely intact on the ground, even though it took the trees out. And there's a lot more of the story. But we look into all these type of things. And once again, over the years, I interviewed people who designed the craft who were aware of what was being developed. And they said, there's nothing they were aware of nothing that we had during that time period that could fit to what people described occurring with Kecksburg.
Yeah. And
all right, Stan, we got a question that says, what are the color of orbs most commonly reported that you get? So what's the most common color that is reported to you?
And size.
Well, of course, we hear white ones. We've had orange and red, but blue ones, we commonly hear about blue ones. And these are the ones, that in some cases seem to have more physiological effects being reported, but not in all cases. But this has been brought up.
Now, are the blue ones? Are they lower to the ground, in the tree line, above the tree line?
Oh, we're not talking about cases just in the tree line. We're talking cases where these things are a few feet above the ground or within a few feet of people.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's what's interesting. Let me just give you an example. Let me just go through a few cases for you, and there's many of them. Many of them. This just happened November 17th. This is now we talk about a lot of incidents in the Chestnut Ridge, but there's also a lot of activity in Laurel Ridge. But here's the thing: we're getting more reports even in populated areas in cities, things like that. This is out of a rural area outside of Ligonier, PA, where there's a lot of weird stuff goes on up there as well, from cryptids to orbs and all kind of anomalous phenomena. So this was November 17th, around 8 o'clock in the evening. This person sitting there working on her computer, and her cat was sitting on her desk to her left. She suddenly notices these two very small white spheres moving across the front of her computer monitor. The small object was about 20 inches away from the witness. The object was described as totally round, but only about 2 inches in diameter. It was an off-white color, like a silverish white with a subtle gray tone. It produced no light, but the structure looked similar to a snowflake or circles of webbing or lace. The object was also thin and flat, no more than about a quarter-inch thick. Witness was able to see through the object as it slowly moved. So that was the first one. Within seconds, a second identical object began to move 5 to 6 inches behind the first one. The cat noticed them as well as it slowly got up and began to slowly follow closely behind them. The cat moved in front of the witness. The witness watched as the cat stopped and raised his right front paw and reached forward to attempt to touch the second object. At the same time, the first object silently and slowly slipped through what the witness could only describe as something that looked like a curtain or membrane, as though it was an entrance to somewhere else. The object vanished. The second object continued to move into the curtain-like area and just vanished as well. The cat sat there as if waiting for the objects to reappear. The objects were not seen again, but the cat sniffed the air for about a minute, then moved back and sat where she was originally. The entire episode only lasted about 5 seconds. But here's an interesting thing. Moments later, there was a very strange smell in the room. The cat also drew back and seemed to notice it as well. The witness said the smell was similar to what you smell after a lightning strike. Ozone. And interestingly, and I don't know if they had a report, but several weeks before, and I don't want to get this mixed. Okay, yeah. So October 23rd of this year, in the city of Uniontown, inside of a house. Now, my research says that Jim Brown, who's from Fayette County, luckily, he's a very high-tech. I think you met him, Ron. I think you met him at the Kecksburg Festival. He builds some amazing instrumentation and decides to investigate these cases. He's very scientific, skeptical, but open-minded, because he worked on a lot of things he can explain, a lot of cases he can't. But anyhow, he interviewed this person. So this was around 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. The witness opened the door to a room in the home that's rarely ever used. About 6 feet away from him, he sees a volleyball-sized round sphere of pure white color that was on the floor and rose up 10 to 12 inches and shot through the wall below the window, was gone in seconds. The witness at the time said he smelled a very odd odor in the room, unlike anything he had ever smelled before. But later, when Jim went out to interview him, he was able to bring in some device, and he was able to produce some different odors for him to identify. This guy's very scientific, and right away he picked one out. It turned out to be ozone. So you had two cases, I've never had this happen before, where there was an odd smell and it was both identified.
Oh, that's good.
Wild. Now,
that's good
there is a couple of videos that have been sent to us over the years of these white lights showing up on security cameras or infrared cameras. And there's one of them in particular that is in a garage, and it was sent by one of our viewers and one of our investigative members here, Terry McCullough. And we'll reach out to him and get his permission, and we will send you that video so that way you can see it yourself on your computer. and take a look at it, because it's really wild. And this is a ball of light moving around inside of someone's garage in their home.
Yeah, this happens.
Yeah, and I'm seeing videos and still pictures and security camera footage and game camera footage. Let me give you another example here. August 25th this year. This is between Fayette and Westmoreland County, where a lot of activity goes on. 5 o'clock in the morning, this guy wakes up, getting ready to go to work. He's dead all the time. He's walking down the hallway. He closes the master bedroom door. The door was open across in the room that they use for other things. That room's about 10 by 10 as a workroom. That's when he noticed a round ball of light about 10 to 12 inches in diameter, about 8 to 10 feet from him. Object was motionless and hovering about 3 or 4 feet above the floor near the window. Looked to be whitish gray in color, seemed translucent, especially the outer edge. But in the middle, the center of the object appeared to be pulsing, looking like static electricity or lightning bolts, or whitish blue in color. They were emitting from the object, mainly from around the center area. And he said seconds later, when the witness had the feeling this thing sensed that he was nearby, the object just vanished. Moments later, there was curtains on the window. From outside the window, there was a real bright glow where the light appeared to be out there. He immediately ran to back door and make sure there was no cars around, because there's very few cars around there anyhow. As soon as he opened the door, everything went dark.
That sounds so much like plasma.
Wow.
Except you don't have the conditions. This is not normal ball lightning. We did not have, in all these cases I'm talking about, we didn't have the weather conditions to produce these types of effects. And I'll give you another example, just even another interesting one. And this is from my memory. I believe it was 2 years ago in October in the afternoon in an apartment building in a town. There's 2 people sitting on a couch. Neither one had a phone or camera with them at the time. They're sitting there watching TV. Just a few feet away, this very small sphere suddenly appears. It's just moving around right in front of them, like 4 feet away from front of them. It rises up a few feet off the floor, and suddenly 10 more of the same size spherical little lights, whatever they were, orbs, appear. Now all these things are moving around about a 6-foot area, just moving around, zigzagging around. Suddenly those 10 vanish. The main object floats behind the TV, and they never see it again.
Wow. I mean, it happens. We've seen them. I mean, back when we were doing Paranormal Horizons, I remember getting up. I was up at all hours of the night editing that thing. And I remember one night, I was going to bed, and as I was walking past, out of the bathroom, I saw a literal little light just moving down the hallway and zip into another room. Just, I wasn't hallucinating. It was real. And I'm just like, of course, that's what I just saw. So you know what I did? I got the Geiger counter as one does, and there was nothing, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bed. I mean, and literally it's become that common at this point. And, I know other people, like, they see these things and they have these existential crises. And again, I really think this is just a part of our reality that we bump into from time to time that we're not aware of. And like you said, there's so many examples of this. Well, we got an example. I mean, I've got a clip here from a witness in Kentucky who literally came up to us and said, "Hey, I'll show you something." Blew our mind, and what really got us was the fact that the guy's background. I mean, he's just amazing. Like he's got his pilot license. He's been in the military. He did over 400 different missions, I think, in Iraq. He ran counter sniper intelligence or counter sniper position there, if it tells you anything. And he observed this thing, this light, saw it off in the distance, and he judged it to be, like a mile or so away, something like that. But either way, he sees it visually. And he's like, well, what is that? And he's an aviation buff. He thought it was a drone, something, So he grabs his binoculars and he looks at this thing and says, no, it looks like a beach ball. It looks like it's a beach ball with the panels, right? And the lights are going around it. And I'm like, had him describe it. So I made a little rendering of what that looks like, but I have the actual video as well. What's Mr. Byers over there saying, Joe? I see he's got a question.
Well, what Jeff brings up here, he says that he was once in a group of 4 people. There were blue orbs around them. Only 2 of the individuals could actually see them. The others could not.
That's common,
Yep.
right, Stan? I mean, that's really common.
I knew this years and years ago. I remember, oh my gosh, 20, 30 years ago, there was a group of people in the daytime standing there, and apparently was a very large object hovering overhead. I think it was like 5 people in the group. Only 2 of them could see the object described. The other 3 couldn't see it. I said a long time ago, I've did a lot of study on the witnesses from years and years ago. And I'm just speculating that certain people have certain abilities, are able to perceive things other people can't, or the phenomena is attractive to them for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is either, but we do see that. Like some people can kind of see into that frequency, right, Joe? And then we kind of theorize at times, like maybe
there have been some. We've toyed with that idea for sure.
Mm-hmm. Or perception,
especially the perception, or that it's almost as if they're being selected, if that's not being too straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Like the phenomena is not targeting them, but making itself known to them, but not others. But why is that? Why would that happen? That's where you start having the questions, is like where the why in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's yeah, that's where we're at with it, right? There's always, oh, sorry, Joe, go ahead, pop it back up. Yeah. What is it? Has he had anyone?
Central Kentucky Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Has anyone mentioned having one of their ears flutter, maybe a humming sound?
Well, again, each case is different. It's not that common, but I've had some people have some low-level UFO encounters, not with the orbs as such, but with some of the other. We have the big wingless cylindrical things that the government calls Tic Tacs that I've been dealing with since at least the early 70s. We have the big solid triangles. We get rectangular objects and disc-shaped things on occasion, not as many like the old days, but you get various reports, and sometimes they're hearing like a humming noise in some cases, but most of the time, most of these objects are silent. But have I heard those kind of reports? Yes. But then again, there's other stranger reports with the Bigfoot and cryptid stuff, and there's all kind of electromagnetic effects being involved. And very commonly, with a lot of these very strange cases, that hunters been out the woods for years, report this, other people walking around, that prior to their encounter, all the nature sounds go quiet. From the birds, the frogs, everything goes completely quiet. And then strange things begin to happen. So that's very, very common.
Absolutely. What else we got, Joe?
Jen is asking if Stan could see the show, and if so, she could send a quick drawing so that way he would be able to see it. I'm not sure, Stan, you're not watching this on the computer or anything right now, are you?
I have a little bit on and off, but you know what? People can go to my website. My phone number's on there. People can reach me and talk to me. My emails are on there, so they can get a hold of me. Or a lot of people text me photographs and pictures, and I'll be glad to communicate with these people, because while I deal mainly in Pennsylvania cases, I get calls from all over the country and out of the country.
Yep. There we go. He popped it up there for you. It is stangordon.info. So yeah, you guys.
stangordon.info, stangordon.info.
Yep. I'm going to queue up that little bit of a video for you guys. Let you take a look at that. Anyone, please get your questions in to Stan while he's here. And if you got any questions, pop them up there. He'll be glad to try to answer them for you. And you'll also notice that Stan only
Womack
answers.
brings up, but
Go
The
ahead.
sighting where only a few people can see it, the object reminded me of the observer effect, quantum measurement problem within quantum physics. It's interesting similarities. And that is in that's regarding observation, where one person could observe something completely different than another, essentially. Or one person is observing something that isn't there. Quantum physics is really interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Joe, take us to presentation mode. And I am going to show you, well, I'll show you his video. There's his video. And off to the right here is a zoomed in version. Okay, so his actual is over here on the left, and over here on the right is the zoomed in. Now look at this thing, the way it's blinking. You see that? It's not blinking. It's changing like in a circular pattern. That's what he was saying. It looked in through his binoculars, it looked like a beach ball, like the sections were changing colors all around it, in a 360 degree rate. But watch what it does. This is the crazy part. So he saw it and he's like, well, when he saw what it was, he's like, I need to start recording. So that's when he grabbed his phone and started recording. And watch this. And Stan, you'll definitely have to go back and watch this video because it's interesting, to say the least.
And we can kick this video over to Stan too.
Oh, I'm going to, yeah. He was just looking for anyone who had any clue, gave me permission to, to put it on the show for us to put on here and let everybody see. Now look at this thing. Watch it though. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. No clue. Absolutely no clue. And your first thing that you think is drone. But again, I'm going to do a full report on this. I think we need to sit down and actually walk through this with his actual, I mean, it's the whole bio of this guy. I wouldn't show it if I didn't believe what he was telling me.
Yeah,
and it's nuts.
It was a pretty wild.
It's pretty legit. So
yeah.
Be looking for that. We're going to do that. And I've got a rendition of kind of what he described just to show you a little bit closer as to what this thing looked like through those binoculars. These were military grade binoculars, of course, just to let you know. It's not showing it. Maybe we won't show you that. Well, I guess we won't because it's not showing it. I think I got a still image. I can show you that, which is basically what's a beach ball? I mean, that's literally what it is. It's a glowing, beach ball. The panels, there we go. The panels lit up and they moved around. So it's not flashing. These panels are changing colors. So the green turns, the red turned green, and vice versa, all the way around this thing. And I'm not sure why the animation didn't work, but it didn't. Made me feel good about rendering it all, for an hour, but whatever.
So Lisa is asking, does Moraine State Park have a lot of weird activity?
Oh yeah, up in Butler County. Yeah, we've had reports for years up there of all kind of strange things, from UFO sightings to, I think, Thunderbird sightings, other type of cryptid reports, Bigfoot activity. I know they had the BORU research team up in Butler, and they've had many reports up there. So that's pretty, that area is very active. Butler County, I'm aware of a lot of weird things there since the 1960s. And that's where we had the famous Butler gargoyle incident back in 2011. There have been many, many other weird cases up there even in the last few years. There's sightings everywhere. And once again, I want to emphasize, while a lot of this goes on in wooded, forested areas, there's more and more activity going on in recent years in the suburbs of large cities and populated areas where there's not a lot of woods. They're having orbs or Thunderbird sightings, Black Panther sightings, Bigfoot sightings in many areas where there's no place to be behind. I'm telling you, these things, they come and they go. They're here and they're gone. I don't understand the science. Nobody does. But that's the only thing that makes any sense. You got so many credible people reading these things. You have no reason to make up these stories. There's patterns to it.
Oh, there's definitely patterns.
Mid-Ohio asked, Stan, how many UFO or cryptid sightings in Pennsylvania happened near high-tension power lines this year versus previous years?
Oh, I'm glad you brought this up. It's not just this year. I talked about this years and years ago. The pattern I found was that many close-range, low-level UFO sightings and many accounts with Bigfoot and other cryptids occur in the vicinity of high-energy sources. So you have many incidents around power plants, high-tension power lines, gas wells, gas lines, all kind of radio communication towers, bodies of water, railroad tracks, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of energy connection to what's going on.
Yep. Got one there.
All right, one more question before we move forward. Question for Stan. I have been researching the 1920 Appalachia guerrilla scare, a good part of which happened in Pennsylvania. Had you heard of this? And if so, do you think it was a Bigfoot or an escaped circus animal?
I over the years, I've just heard a little bit of talk about it. I've not researched it. Over the years, you hear different stories of escaped animals, like a train wreck or whatever. And people say, well, that's what people are seeing. And I'm sure in some cases it's a possibility. But there's been a lot of incidents going back in Pennsylvania to the Native Americans. You can go to Eric Hoffman's website, the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society. He has hundreds of articles from the 1800s and forward of Bigfoot and cryptid UFO cases all over Pennsylvania and other areas. So these things have been going on for years and years and years. And it's something that's persisted, but I can tell a lot of the stranger stuff has been increasing again in more recent years.
Mm-hmm. It actually has. And we've kind of seen that in tandem, actually, in both our research. And you get tons and tons. We've shared, various aspects of those cases, and some of them are pretty much identical at times, which is just, there's something there. I think that's just what it comes down to at this point. There's just something there. And of course, we're not going to pretend to know what it is, only that there is something there. Right, Joe?
That is correct. There definitely does seem to be something there. It is the question of what is that?
Yeah, and I think we're all going to agree that we just don't. We have no clue. So what, in your opinion, Stan, this will be the last one we do right before the new year. And we always do this little predictive show on New Year's, and it just kind of ends up that you're here right before that. So I'm going to get you to play the speculation game with us. What do you think is going to happen in 2026? Do you think we're going to see any more movement? Do you think we're going to just kind of sit here and spin our wheels like we have been? Like they just give us enough basically to keep us hooked?
I think, you and I talked about the Tron long ago. I told you, I think a couple years ago, I said, you watch and see that you're going to hear a lot more about the orbs being connected with the Bigfoot stuff, the cryptid stuff all over the country. You're going to hear more and more stranger reports coming in. And we'll have to wait and see what the new year brings. But I think because of the three major films that are coming, that are out, there's a lot more public interest in these type of things. Podcasts are full of these cases now. Major media is looking at these cases and are not laughing like they used to. They're taking it a lot more seriously. I think you're going to hear a lot more about the different things we're dealing with, about these anomalies. And I think it's going to be a fascinating year.
I think that's a good optimistic outlook on that as well, because I think we've moved past the whole point where, everybody, with the age of disclosure, for example, I haven't seen the film, so like you, I'm not gonna talk about it, but I am going to say this: there's a lot of people who haven't seen the film who are talking about it, and I think that is probably not helpful to a lot of these things. I do think that James' his new film is going to be pretty awesome from what I'm understanding. And I do believe you have a part in that, which is pretty awesome as well, sir. Congratulations. And yeah, that blew my mind when I saw the trailer. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be really something. So it kind of seems like we've moved into, it's okay to talk about UFOs. right? And it's taken a while to get there. So now we're going to have the uncomfortable talk about other things. You know, if UFOs are real, then we're going to start talking about all these other cases, you know, the contact cases, the abduction cases, all that. And it just opens this floodgate. And I think that's one of our problems. That's where we are right now. And I think that film, like Age of Disclosure, that wasn't made for you and me. That wasn't made for us, you know, for half the audience here, because we know what we know about that stuff. It's made for the total, you know, it's for the media. It's for the people who are not interested in this subject at all, who have been laughing at it for years. And I think that's kind of the takeaway I got from a lot of it. And I think James's, however, yeah, it might be a little different. Might be a little different. I'm hoping anyway. We're going to know soon.
Yeah, we're living in extremely interesting times. I mean, all the years I've been doing this, I've never seen the seriousness of people in the media now, the serious films that are coming out. Public in general talking more and more about this. The interest is everywhere. I mean, here in Pennsylvania, in this area, I mean, everybody's talking about Bigfoot sightings, UFO sightings. It's just amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Your transmission's getting a little garbled there every now and again, but basically, I agree with you. Now, what he said basically is, you know, unlike what they want you to believe, people keep saying, you know, this is all, oh, don't get excited. We've been here before. We really haven't been here before. This is uncharted territory. There's never been this much headway made in trying to understand not just UFOs, but some of the more strange aspects that are involved with this phenomena. And it's pretty exciting. I'll be honest with you. Right, Joe?
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah. And I mean, we could talk for days and days about just some of the recent things. We didn't get into all the weird things. We've had everything this year from daylight Bigfoot sightings, Thunderbird sightings, Black Panther reports, Dogman sighting, and all kind of other weird stuff showing up in a lot of different areas. A lot of it, again, is in daylight, or a lot of it is close range. And that's another whole story to get into someday.
Man, and you know, and the thing is that people need to remind themselves, and I think you agree with this, is just keep an open mind. You know, you don't have to believe everything, but you have to look at the data and you have to see where it's kind of pointing you. And it doesn't matter how strange the data is. It's there. It's not going to change, you know, and I think that's important. I think your work is important in that aspect. Like I said, when we got into this, you know, it definitely changed Joe's mind, and mine too, just simply because, you know, I've had experiences and whatnot, and I never really shared those with anyone. And I was telling you, and you're like, oh, you know, basically you're not alone. That's, you're okay, you know, and it's all right to talk about that stuff. And it's all right to be an investigator and a researcher and have those things happen, because up until that point, I did not think so. I thought that, you know, people would look at you and be like, oh, you're just biased. But, you know, I think we go out of our way to prove that we're beyond, you know, I guess rigorous when it comes to trying to figure out what some of this stuff is. I mean, we'll sit there and tear our own work apart before anyone sees it. So I think that's what you got to be, though. I think you got to do that.
Seth Womack says, I enjoyed the Age of Disclosure. It was filmed in a very serious way, and it had a lot of major UAP experts, in quotations, included in the film. And I think it's a great way to introduce new people to the phenomena.
That's what it's for. That's what it's for.
Definitely. And that's what these producers need to do. Get the good information out. Yeah. And you need to educate the people who've been around the field for a long time, but mainly focusing on the people who don't know much about these topics.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, you know, that's, you know, we've told people before, if you don't know, thanks folks for being here. If you're brand new, I've seen a lot of new faces tonight. Make sure you are subbed. We are trying to reach our 3,000 goal by the end of the year, and we are going to hit it. And then we're going to do a big giveaway. We're also going to have a giveaway here just a little bit too. So you guys need to stay tuned for that.
That we are.
One of the more interesting aspects of this is that everyone who really gets into this, they kind of can make a difference, you know, and they don't have to go out in the field or really even investigate. If they're a witness, all they got to do is tell their story. And we've noticed over the years, when one person says something, another person steps up and says, oh, me too. you don't have to share your names, right? I mean, that's one of the most important things. There's a lot of people who think that by coming forward, they're going to be put on some list or whatever. I really don't think that happens much anymore. And there's just too many. I think there's probably millions of people who have seen something. You know this as well as I do.
At this point, the onus is on the people who say it's not real.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter. I think that's an important thing to put. We're not trying to make anyone believe. We start our presentations that way every single time, and you know, try to stay true to that. And you're doing the same thing, Stan. Doesn't matter how weird it is, you've just reported on it over the years.
Well, I think it's important that people know the facts, that there's something going on, that there's so many credible people from so many backgrounds. You'd be amazed at the background of some of the people I interviewed call me about these things, and how people who never believed these things before, after their experience, their lives were completely changed.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I know that we're going to continue the work. You know, for the folks who don't know, we are doing our own little series. It'll be on here. It'll be on our channel. So do make sure you're sub and make sure you get that notification.
Strange Realities
coming
to this channel very soon.
Very.
I wanted to mention, Ron, that people, again, they can go to my website. There's a lot of information on there. You got to scroll back. What you see on there is just a sampling of the reports that come in. But there's a lot of information on there, a lot of weird stuff going back for years. So you have to take your time to keep scrolling back through that. At stangordon.info, there's ways they can reach me as well by phone or email through their website. My books are available on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. The latest one that people will enjoy is called Creepy Cryptids and Strange UFO Encounters of Pennsylvania. There are things in there you never heard of before, bizarre creature cases. These are all cases I worked on and or some of my associates were involved in, and there's some amazing things in those books. And Silent Invasion talks about that massive wave in 1973 when we saw the Bigfoot UFO connection.
I think Creepy Cryptid is probably one of the, it's definitely full of high strangeness. Let's just say that. And if you haven't read it, and this is a topic you're interested in, get that book. Invasion, another one of my favorites. I think that's going to put you into the realm of trying to put this, you know, the Bigfoot possible connection, UFOs, all that, the whole high strangeness gamut, you know, the one that just infuriates common sense, as JL and Heineck like to say, and it does. But yeah, that's it. Stan, I know, like I said, you're always a busy man. You've got stuff to do, and we are always grateful that when you drop by here and tell us some interesting stories and some of your research. But there's an event that's taking place this weekend, right? I mean, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, the Kecksburg Fire Department, they decided at the last minute they were wanting to do something, but we've been concerned about the weather around here. You never know. But they decided that next Tuesday, the 60th anniversary of the Kecksburg UFO incident at the social hall where you were at inside, they're going to, from 6 to 8 p.m., they're going to do a special commemorative event. And so I'm going to have some witnesses there. We'll be showing my film, Kecksburg, The Untold Story. They're going to be doing a raffle. They're going to have their famous Kecksburg UFO burgers and fries there. And a lot of interesting things have been going on for a couple hours. So it's a great get-together for people to just commemorate that event that made history in that area.
Absolutely. And folks, if you have not made it to the UFO festival in Kecksburg in July, you're missing out. It's fun. It's a blast. And, you know, we go when we can. Sometimes there's other things happening, but you know, it's always a fun trip. Joe can't ever make it, unfortunately. Maybe one day that'll change. But as of right now, you know.
Well, it'll have to be a day once Ash is a little bit older, and I can tag him along, because it always winds up on his birthday weekend.
It does. It does. Yep. Every single time. But it's always a fun time, and you know, we really like coming up and hanging out with you guys, and you know, coming back here and pretty much showing the video and telling everybody what they missed. So hopefully we can get more people there next year. Folks, what do we got out there, Joe? Anybody else? We're down to final final time here as far as questions go? I know
Everybody's just saying thank you for
Thank
the
you.
show. Great
Okay.
show, guys. It's a whole lot of thanks.
I see. Thanks to Stan. Absolutely. Yep, that's what we like to hear. That's funny. Real talk like UFO scientists do. That's hilarious. That's a joke. Anyway, Stan, I want to thank you again. We both do for coming along here. And can you believe we got the audio working for once? And it was an important time. So I'm happy it did.
Well, sounds good to me. I appreciate you having me back on the show. Want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a very happy and healthy New Year. And hopefully we'll all be able to get together again next year.
Absolutely.
And remember, guys, hang in there. The show's not over just yet. Stan, it's awesome having you on. We look forward to it. I can't wait to see the piece that gets released here next week and everything going on this weekend. We're excited to see that. We're going to be sharing it here on the show as well as on our pages. So definitely keep an eye out there, guys. And Stan, hope you enjoyed the package you got today. We did what we could to get it there as quickly as possible. And hopefully you've got some choices you can work with there. So enjoy, and you pick the one that you want to put up there and show everybody.
Well, I appreciate it. You guys did a great job on that. I'm sure you're showing it again on your program here. I'm going with the kind of off gold bronze color because that's more of what people describe. And I'll be showing it at the special event next Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, there's a picture of it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's the one that you've got on the display there, Joe, actually. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, that was what arrived at Stan's house today. So he will be showing these on the program he's going to be a part of and putting it out there on display for people to see the new model and the mock-up alongside Ron's artwork as well. So that's the physical model. And, reach out to us, guys. If that's something that you're interested in and you would like to have one of these, just let us know and we'll put together what the price is going to be on these with and without a base. And you guys can have one of these in your home.
Yeah. I mean, Stan's literally the first. So there you go.
Yeah, Stan, I think, has had the first iteration of each one of these that we've made because that makes the third model.
He has. Yeah. All right, Stan, again, thank you so much for being with us. Is there anything else you'd like to tell these people? Any place you're going to be doing anything soon? I know the year's ended and you're pretty much done with presentations as of right now, I think.
I am this year, but I'm already booked for a lot of events next year, and hopefully all will be good, and we'll be able to attend those. Some very big events I've been invited to, and I think there's going to be a lot going on next year. So I'm looking forward to 2026, and maybe it'll be the year that some doors will open up.
We can only hope, my friend. We can only hope. All right. I'd like to thank you again, folks. That was Stan. Stan, thanks for being here. And I'll be contacting you here shortly, and I will get you an actual video and a whole transcript of that one case that I showed on here.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, my friend. Goodbye.
Good night.
Joe, you on? All right, guys. Thank you. Here is everyone's blessing for tonight. You guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Remember, don't leave just yet. Something cool is coming out of here. Somebody's going to get to take it home.
Something cool's getting ready to happen.
Everybody's blessing for tonight. Thank you so much for all the donations. You're going to get a twofer.
I had to re-render it, by the way, but we did it for you, and we did something else for you. And
Right here, guys.
hang on. You just
If you're not familiar,
stay where you're at, Joe. Stay where you're at. Don't move. Just stay where you're at. Hang on. I'll get it right in a minute. I'm trying to switch you. That's not right. Put yourself up there. Why is it not working? I swear it never works for me when I do this for you.
if you're not familiar, folks, this
There he is.
is the Kagatio, the poop log.
Yep, that's what it is.
And it's got legs too. The legs, insert here, and it stands up, and it's awesome. And somebody tonight is going home with this. I mean, it's going to get shipped to you, but it's going to be yours. Let's see.
No, it's still doing it. I'm trying to get a picture where we show that thing. I don't know why I can't choose you.
Now,
hang on. I think I got it. Nope.
Dead fish cheese spread.
Close enough. There we go. You can get a better picture of him now. Hold him up there, Joe.
There you go. This is the Kagatio.
Oh.
Like I said, there's legs that will go in here. You got one that goes here. And because there's holes drilled.
Yeah.
They're here.
Just a little assembly required, not very much.
There we go. So it stands like this, and you put it under your Christmas tree, and you feed it candy.
Yeah.
And then, it'll poop the candy out. That's basically how it works, guys. This is our mascot for Christmas, essentially. Some people choose the Krampus. Some people like other, Santa, things of that nature. We here at Wild and Weird Radio choose the Christmas poop log.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We're not totally serious all the time, people. But no, it's a real legend. Go back and watch. What is it? 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, this is actually a real Christmas tradition in Barcelona.
Yeah, it's real.
And what they do is, the kids will feed it figs and berries and nuts and things like that throughout the month of December.
And then tell them the fun part. Tell them the fun part.
Christmas morning.
What do they do to get the food and presents?
Oh, well, they have to beat it.
They have to what?
They have to beat it. Yeah. So they take sticks similar to one of the legs, and they just beat it. And then they pull the blanket away from the log, and there's a ton of candy there. So it poops out the candy after you feed it nuts, berries, and dried fruits. It poops out the candy after you beat it.
It's such a messed up thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing, guys.
It's real.
And one of you gets this guy.
Congratulations.
All right, I got 2 more names I got to add.
Okay. Who's excited, by the way? Everybody wants a and raisins too. You're right. Absolutely. Yep. See, they knew what it was. We got the Yule poop log. Oh my God, it's a real thing. Yeah, it actually is. Yeah, it's a real thing. I think I had the best orb sighting in history ever, so that's cool. There you go. Yes, fresh pond scent. What is that? It's not pond, right? Is that one pond?
All right, so I've got everybody. Our Byron showed up right in the next time, man. Good job.
Yeah, you got to be present to win. That's what we're doing. This is just for you folks
if I call your name out and you guys don't respond, I'm spinning the wheel again.
Yeah,
that's just how it's going to go. All right, so here we go. I got everybody's name in. Let's see. I'm going to do a share screen with you guys.
Oh, let me take you to presentation. Wrong. This one. That one. Okay.
All right, here we are. Can you see the wheel?
Can you see the wheel?
Wheel of Destiny is spinning.
It's spinning.
Here we go. We're going to click it in 3, 2, 1.
Spin
Christmas
that wheel.
poop log.
Who's going to win the Christmas poop log? Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Central Kentucky Bigfoot. Are you here? Central Kentucky Bigfoot.
That's hilarious.
Are you in the house?
It may make up.
There he is.
That may make
Central
up.
Kentucky Bigfoot. This poop log is going to be yours.
Oh my God.
Email us your mailing address and I will send it to you, candy included.
My goodness. Congratulations,
Now-
Central.
Now, the games aren't over.
Oh no. This is
Games are not
Christmas.
over.
Christmas is just beginning. See, we always do this nice festive thing this time of year, and you guys were so nice to us this year. Oh, you get really cool things this year. So
You do.
get ready for it.
So this Christmas season has just kicked off. There will be giveaways, not just like that one. There will be other prizes thrown in.
There could
There's a
be
good
poop
chance.
logs though, right? They may
Yeah. There's going to be more poop logs.
poop logs.
Yep, desk size miniature poop logs. And there's some of those that are made up and ready. Those are going to be going out over the next couple weeks. But we're also going to be throwing in some other things. We're going to be throwing in a poster or a print. You never know.
You just never know.
Somebody will get a copy of the new Kecksburg.
Yeah.
And, we've got a few weeks here before Christmas, and we're going to do it up, baby. You guys have been great to us. We're going to give back to you. And
It's a multi-Christmas, and a Squatchy New Year, and that's just how it's going to be. And, that's what we do around here. So hope you like it. Hope you enjoy it. But, again, it's fun to break away from being serious all the time and to actually get to do these. So
Dead Fish says, I literally came in 3 minutes ago for the first time ever, and we're giving away a poop log. Now, normally, so our show, we ride the fence of serious investigators, because that's what we are. We are field investigators. We also have this show. We allow the audience to kind of steer the rudder occasionally. Tonight, we'll have guests, but we don't take ourselves so seriously that we can't have fun. We do a lot of silly things, clearly.
clearly,
we have alter egos that will make appearances from time to time. And there's giveaways, and we host get-togethers as well. And the get-togethers are funded by the folks here, so they're free get-togethers. And if you're in the region and it's worth a couple hour drive to you, they're free, and you're more than welcome to show up.
Oh yeah, they're a lot of fun. You get to meet people, like really talk to people. Sometimes there are name badges when they don't get misplaced. Things like that. It's really cool stuff.
Right. Okay, says Deadfish says, check out my documentary. It comes out tonight. The Orange Crystal Orbs. Heck yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Roget says, where can I get that shirt you're wearing, Joe? This is from Small Town Monsters. I don't know if they actually have this one anymore. This was a Kickstarter special.
Yeah, I don't think you can get that one. No, I can make you one with Joe being abducted, but that's different.
Possible.
Yeah, looked completely different, but kind of the same. Probably funnier too. I might even make him holding the Geiger counter. He's getting sucked up.
Smalltownmonsters.store or shop is what the website is for their where you can go purchase merchandise from them, the DVDs and the clothing. I forget when I share the show that there are people who don't already know you.
We just made someone very happy.
Yeah, I know. That's great. That's great. Central, glad you're getting the poop log, man. It'll be fun. I'll throw in some goodies into the box.
So, folks, we just kicked off the beginning of Christmas season here and holiday season. Call it what you want. Mothmas, I don't care. You call it. Labels don't matter. If you haven't checked out our philosophy on things, labels don't matter. Not anymore. So, and yeah, if you want one of those, one of these, by all means, do reach out and let us know. Those are
Yeah.
original. You won't find them anywhere else. That's a promise. And they were, handmade right there, right here and right there. That's a 3D original model that I created by hand. There's no friggin' AI involved. Just want to put that out there and be clear. And by the way, thank you guys for what I've been seeing online. I really expected when the AI thing started that we were going to get so many people who are just going to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
And this is the wave of the future. And I'm so happy that you paid attention to us 3 years ago. And there's some of this resistance that are starting, and they recognize what's happening. The human element must remain in our art. It must remain in all that we do. I don't care if you use it for little things like funny stuff. That's cool and good, but don't let this stuff become you. That's the most important part. Don't let it take away what you are. I think Bigfoot is secretly Joe anyway. Yeah. Well, that's true.
I'm just a shaved, civilized Bigfoot.
We call it
civilized is loose.
We call it Joe Squatch. That's what we call it.
Yeah,
Joe Squatch, man. It's just what it is.
Cameron, thanks for hanging out. Hope you have a good weekend, and we will catch you guys all here next week.
I'll be back for anything UAP. Well, that's good because next week we'll have some of that.
We do a lot of UAP stuff here. You can go back through our backlog and watch that. We also have a ton of actual footage that we've collected from the field.
Yep. Well, we've got permission to show a couple more clips for next week. And folks, if you've got anything you want us to show, by all means, send it in. We've got a little thing we do. It's a little sightings thing that we'll do that shows, the stuff that you send in to us. And we let everybody on here kind of look at it. Sometimes I'll go in there and we'll tear it apart. It's called In Focus. It's a little clip thing we do. And we'll tear it apart and we'll look at it together as a community and just kind of determine what it is or what it isn't. And it really doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just interesting to see how it works. And what's really, I'm happy to say that we've never had anyone come into one of these and just, start trolling it. But we do run a band hammer, so just to let you know.
We do, because it does happen.
It
hasn't happened for a long time.
It's
been last Christmas, I think, was the last time.
It's rare. These people have just amazing. Our community is one of the most amazing out there. And we are trying to reach that 3,000 by the end of the year. So be a part of that. Glow and Joe's Poop Log. Yep, you should not have probably typed that. That's true. But, we're not making that. Are we? Are you making one glow in the dark?
I am now. So one of those will be a definite special edition glowing poo log because I have way too much glow material.
What have we done here?
Oh, It's been fantastic.
But no one will ever take us serious, but it's okay. We'll have fun getting there.
But yeah, guys, come hang out with us here next week. We are. Let's see. What do you want to do? We have enough stuff for an In Focus because we haven't been able to actually run it.
I don't know. Every time I say it, something happens. News breaks. We've got to cover it. So I'm not saying it. So just tune in next week. It might be In Focus. It might be alien invasion. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm just not going to call it anymore.
Well, I'll make you a special glow in the dark.
My God.
Get a hold of us.
That is hilarious.
Oh man, you guys are nuts. We'll see y'all here next week. It's been awesome. Go check out stangordon.info. His website is literally a data mine.
Oh, it really is.
It's all of his research for the last 60 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Go check it out. Make sure you're checking either his channel or our channel come Tuesday for all of the updates, because there's some stuff that he didn't share with us tonight because he's going on the news to share it.
No, there's all kinds of stuff. And there's things he'll never probably be able to say, Joe. I mean, that's the thing, we didn't get into that, but there are things that, and what's great about Stan, I'll say it really fast, is that instead of running to a mic as soon as someone tells him something, he'll sit on it for years until he gets enough people to come forward and say, you know what, I saw blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And that's what happened this time, with a couple of those things he shared with us, with the guy jumping on top of it and the door opening. And he called me up and he said, I need you to redesign the model. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, over the years, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I know you've been tight-lipped about stuff. So he told me about that. And that's how we ended up making that new rendition.
Yeah.
So really, folks, it's really cool. It is a historical thing. If you want to get one, let us know. And we will get that done just for you. Okay.
And we can, there are a limited number of 60th anniversary prints left as well.
There are. Yeah, there's a few of them left. Not very many, but there's a few of those left.
Right. There's a few left after CryptidCon.
Yeah.
And if you want to get one,
let us know.
Because there's not many left.
Yeah, let us know. They're only like $10 plus shipping. So, you know, let us know. Not going to say what we have planned next week, like you said, right? It could be in focus, may not be, don't know. We're going to just,
it just depends on what happens with the news, really.
It really does. We bumped a little bit of the news tonight just because, you know, and you know what? I'm going to really quick, I'm going to play that one clip because it's so super short, Joe.
Yeah, run with it and then we'll close.
Yeah. And I want to end on this because we might begin with this, is what I'm saying. If
odds are we're going to begin with this.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah.
The jury is still out on just how fast and how far the bombshell Age of Disclosure documentary moves the needle on UFO disclosure. But according to a new report, we may be closer than you think. Journalist Michael Schellenberger published an article today quoting a senior advisor to Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, who says, quote, "We are headed toward a massive disclosure." Now, just when that might happen, it remains vague, but it does reflect the sentiment of the moment.
I mean, she's right. There's something happening. There's something brewing. We're going to make our year-end predictions. You know, we always said between December 16th and January, you know, middle of January, there's almost always something that goes on. The hot season is. Dude, we're coming right into it, and this is happening. That pattern is starting to repeat. Let's see what happens, but I've got a feeling we're going to see something.
Well, everybody, remember, next week, right here, 8 p.m. Eastern, Thursday night, Wild and Weird Radio Live. You want to come here and hang out with us? We're going to have some crazy giveaways because, you know, it's Christmas and that's what we do. That's just how we roll, guys.
It is.
It could be an up in the air show. If the news kicks off like wildfire, expect a news heavy show. If not, we have enough ammo backed up for in focus and we can run with that.
Yeah, we'll show some nice videos, right? Because we got some cool stuff.
We have some really good video and some good photographs that we can show. Some of it UAP related, some of it Bigfoot related. Gonna be really, really cool. Good show regardless.
Yep. Some of it Joe getting radiated. It's great stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Make sure to leave those comments after the shows. That's important, and it's really helping us. I know last week's show was great. We got a lot of play on that because you guys asked questions and you left comments, and that really pushes it out with the algorithm. Hit that hype. We want to make sure that people see this kind of stuff. Again, you were a part of history tonight, whether you know it or not, because that
some of that information that Stan shared has not been released before.
Well, that footage that we showed at the beginning, that clip, that news just dropped today. So there'll be more of that too, of course. So stay tuned. And hopefully we'll get some of that on there for you next week as well.
So in the meantime, guys, we will be here waiting for you until next week at 8 p.m. Eastern.
No, I'm not going to be sitting here waiting on any. What are you talking about?
I mean, I really don't want to go back to my day job.
I'm not going to sit here for a week.
This is what I'm going to do.
No,
I'm going to grow mold. And remember, we're not alone. We've never been alone. It's always watching you. It knows when you're sleeping. It knows when you're awake. It knows when you're about to beat it with a stick, and that's why it poops out candy.
Yeah.
Stay wild and weird, everybody.